very symmetrical. Look at the third step up on either side of the staircase on the outside railing. The cutout, the ironwork, is a boot scraper, so they could clean their boots before they entered the home. The bed, the bottom is the key to the kitchen. This is Columbia Square. On your right, the historic inn, the Kehoe House. William Kehoe, the man who built and lived in this home, owned the Kehoe Iron Foundry. Every place on this house today you see is painted. It's actually cast iron underneath, made it as iron foundry. They painted over all that iron about 40 years ago when it was first turned into this inn. Before that, 1980, that belonged to Joe Namath, Terry Bradshaw, a couple of ball players bought that house. They wanted to turn that beautiful house into a gentleman's club discotheque. The city denied that request. Now on your right, I'm coming up from the back of the Owen Thomas house, which is stop 8, but I wanted to show you how to get in to this gate on your right. They do this backwards. First you'll tour the carriage house. Those are the oldest slave quarters in Savannah. And then this beautiful courtyard, and then the home. But it's stop 8. 8 is, you get back on the trolley here to go to 9. It's about a half a mile. You're welcome. The Owen Thomas house, this is most famous for the young architect who designed it, William J. He'd already gained fame at the age of 23 when he built the Untitled Chapter in England. He spent 4 years in Savannah and built 5 of our major mansions and the Savannah Theater. This house is famous for the optical illusions he designed into it. The room to the right of the front door is a parlor. You can see it's a corner room and square. When you walk into that room from the inside of the home, you feel like you're in a round room. The design that William J. used on the ceiling of the room gives the illusion the room is round. Things like that are all through the Owen Thomas house. I think that's the most interesting house museum in Savannah. It's open till 5, and it's the only house museum in Savannah with the full colonial kitchen still in the And you can get combination tickets for these house museums if you're going to be here a couple of days. Combination tickets are $20. They're good for 7 days, but they're good for 3 museums, which is a really good deal because the average admission to most of these is $15 a piece. We're coming into Wright Square, named for the last royal governor, James Wright. And the monument here is to William Washington Board, the founder of the Central of Georgia Railroads, and the grandfather of Juliet Gordon Lowe, father of Girl Scouts' grandfather. On your left, this was built 1895 as a post office courthouse. It's just a federal courthouse now. But this entire building is made of Georgia marble. You can see the streaks and veins running through. Our marble quarries are way north Georgia. Tate. Big chunks of marble just laying along the side of the road. The Savannah Smokehouse on your right is a very popular barbecue restaurant. Across the street, about halfway down the block, where the flag's hanging out, is Tequila Town. That's my favorite Mexican restaurant. There are 168 restaurants in this 2 square mile historic district. You won't go hungry. Next we're coming to Telfair Square, named for a very wealthy Scottish merchant family. One-time Governor Telfair. Mary Telfair was the last remaining heir of the Telfair family fortune. She died in 1875 and left it all to the city of Savannah. It was worth millions. It included the family mansion on your right, which is now the Telfair Academy of Arts and Science. And will be stop 9 if anybody wants to get off here. Anybody want to get up and stuff? Mary Telfair stipulated in her will that her home be a museum for her art collection. As long as it stands in the city of Savannah, the Telfair Academy is never to allow food or drink to cross the thresholds of this home. She put that in her will. Now when I turn here, the big glass front building on your left is the Jefferson Center. That's our contemporary art museum. But these are both open till 5. When the family mansion on your right was built in 1818, it used to only go as far as where the building curves in by these pipes on your right. From that curve back is a beautiful rotunda they added on later. 55 years after Mary Telfair died, left her will, the Telfair Academy was going to host this big exhibit opening, and they felt that warranted a reception inside the museum. So, for the first time ever, they were going to take food and drink into the Telfair. The reception was planned for the end of February. It had been a beautiful day. But at 6 o'clock that evening, when the caterer arrived and started carrying the food and champagne into the museum, the sky immediately turned black. Wind started blowing, thunder and lightning began. They were sure it was Mary Telfair coming after them for taking food into that museum. Very next week is when the Academy started to build that big rotunda on the back of the mansion. That's where they held all their events until the Jefferson Center opened recently. Now this is the west end of Broad Street, this downtown district. This block is being white, but the stores are all open. That ties right into the city market we're coming into now. What they call city market now is where they used to hold the farmers market until 1955. Now it's all shops and restaurants and art studios, art galleries, and local artists through here. This will be our last stop at the end of the tour, stop 14. But it's a nice concentration of shops and restaurants without walking around too far. The City Market River Street shops will stay open until 9 o'clock tonight, I'm sure. B&D Burgers on your right, they have 3 locations in the historic district. It's great food, real popular sports bar. But this is all part of City Market. Restaurants, restaurants, restaurants. Coco Moss on your right, that's fairly new. It's very nice, I've been there a couple of times. And on the corner to your left is our famous oyster bar here in City Market. Sorry, Charles. If we can get up on the other side of it is right next, on the next block down. I don't know what's going on down there. It's Paula Dean's restaurant, gift shop, the Lady and Sons. They serve lunch at the Lady and Sons from 11 till 3. Then they open for dinner at 5. Little Duck Diner on your left is really popular. People are setting up tables everywhere. Busy, busy weekend. The striped awning on your right, that's Paula Dean's. The gift shop is green and white backgrounds, and the restaurant striped awning. When Olive is colonists landed on the Savannah River, 2 blocks to our left, or 2 blocks behind us. They came up and laid out Johnson Square we're coming into next. Somebody's going to have to go. Car's going out. Johnson Square is where the colonists camped while they waited for their homes to be built. It had a public oven, public mill, sundial. The monument, or obelisk in Johnson Square, is to Nathaniel Greene. He was second in command to Washington during the Revolutionary War. Nathaniel Greene was a very wealthy man from Rhode Island. He lost everything he had supporting the Revolutionary War. So when the war was over, Nathaniel Greene was broke and had a family in Rhode Island with nowhere to live. For his war effort, Georgia gave Nathaniel Greene the Mulberry Grove plantation. 6 months after he moved his family down here from Rhode Island, Nathaniel Greene died of a heat stroke and was buried in Johnson Square by the Society of Cincinnati. He was their first inductee. His oldest son is also buried in that square and was also an officer in Washington. We're coming into Reynolds Square, named for the first royal governor, John Reynolds. The statue in this square is John Wesley. John and his brother Charles Wesley both came here in 1736. The noble part brought back for that second group of colonists. John Wesley did start the first Sunday school in Spain. Charles, he was secretary to the colony for Indian affairs. They both only spent 21 months in this colony, and then they returned to England. They were still Anglican when they were here. Now, right around the corner will be stop 10. And if you look to the left-hand corner of the square is the famous Old Pink House restaurant. That's one of the finest restaurants in Savannah. They open at 5 for dinner on Mondays. They don't have lunch. But anywhere along this sidewalk on your right is stop 10. If they want to get off. Cotton factories ran the cotton exchanges. The elevated iron sidewalks you're going to take to get to these shop, the factors, the brokers up on this level, where their offices, their cotton exchange were. So these roads that led down to the river were free of pedestrians. Wagons hauling these huge bales of cotton could keep moving to the ships that were waiting on them down the Savannah River. 1886, a bale of cotton weighed 434 pounds. Ships could carry thousands of bales of cotton. They were heavy and weighted down the Savannah. When those ships came from England to help weight and balance those ships and cross the Atlantic, they filled it with stone. And these are the ballast stones that make up the roads and walls of this part of the city. Once those ships arrived on the Savannah River and dumped all this ballast, the colonists used it. When England found out they were using these discarded rocks for, they started charging them. Now above us, on either side of the trolley, you can see how this worked. The factor would come out of his office up here. From his factor's walk, he could get on that cotton when it came under their wagons. Then I was putting these warehouses down here on River Street. And that's what every shop and restaurant on River Street was, a cotton warehouse. River Street's a one-way. I have to turn right. The sea makes all the trolleys come down this ramp. And there's one of your candy kitchens on the corner to your left. And all the way down on your left.